Here's some wall space in my garage. I'm going to show you how to build the cheapest wall shelf. I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. Here's kind of a cost comparison. I calculated the cost of the Menards wire shelving at $3.01 per linear foot, and my shelving is $1.33 per linear foot. The costs do not include fasteners, and the costs are considering new materials at my local store in July 2018. Before I build something, I usually have the cost is half of what I could just buy it at. And another thing I look at is, how much work is it to put up the wire shelving? Well, you still have to put the wire shelving together. You still have to buy fasteners and fasten it to the wall. So why not just go ahead and build your own shelves and save about $1.67 or something per linear foot. Here's the material list I came up with. We got the item, the quantity, the measurement of each piece, how many screws, and then nails, and then I went ahead and totaled it here. And furring strips for that one piece, we need less than 3 8-foot furring strips. This program that you're seeing here is Google Sketchup. I use this to make sure everything fits together. And earlier you just saw my material list, and here I'll go through what each part is. This white thing here, you see, that's just going to be drywall, and we have our 2x4 studs behind it. This pink here is the plywood top. This is the front support lip. These are our horizontal blocks, bottom blocks, our diagonal piece, and our end supports. This here is a cross section. This is how it goes together. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this, or a snippet tool if you have Windows 7 or above, so you can go ahead and use these measurements when you create yours. And now I'll go ahead and show you this is, if you're confused on what that looks like, here's a 3D version of how the shelf will look assembled. Just give you a couple rotations here, and then we'll go ahead and get into actually building this thing. Alright, one thing that I did not mention, if you notice here, I have a little arrow pointing here where we cut off the tip. Now, this is a 45 degree, and then this is a 90 degree angle right here. See how that? So you need to be careful when you cut this piece to cut it correctly. And I have it cut like this is so we have a nice flat blocking. If it's just this tip against that wood, it's going to either slide under the curved wood, because there's a curve on the end of these wood that's not shown in SketchUp here. So, or instead of it'll get smushed and it'll get smashed, and then that'll result in too much strain on the screws that are holding it in place. So I like to have a nice flat edge in addition to a screw. It'll just give you that additional support. You can load up the shelf with more stuff. So let's see how exactly what the 1/4 inch is. I think it's a 1/4 inch from here to here. That's what I did on my personal shelf. So let's go ahead and measure that and make sure. Here to here, yep, 1/4 inch right there. So you want to make sure you cut that tip off. Here's the order of the build. I'm not going to go through and say all those. You can go ahead and pause the video if you want and go through that. First thing I do when I start a project is I draw up a set of plans. I bought all the materials. After we gather all our materials, we're going to take our level and we're going to place it where we want our shelf on the wall. Once we get that bubble level, take our pencil, trace a line all the way across. This is where the underside of the plywood is going to go. I'm going to mark all of the stud locations, and I'm going to mark them just right under that line. So I just go through and mark it just like that. Now we're going to measure below the stud locations, and that's going to be the bottom of this block right here. And in my shelf's case, it is exactly 16 and 5/16 inches from that previous line that we just drew all the way to the bottom of this bottom block, support block there. So we just take our tape measure and we measure 16, and then you just draw a little line there on one end and then on the other end, right under the stud there. After we mark those locations, we're going to glue our furring strips together and also these pieces. I just took one long one and I glued them together, and then I just made my cuts. You don't want a void to pull the screw out. You want them to be tight together. Then we go ahead and just make all our cuts. After I made the cuts, I went ahead and pre-drilled all the holes of what I'm going to be hanging on the wall. After I pre-drilled those, I set my screws in. After we have our screws set in our furring strips, I went ahead and numbered where each one is going. Number 1, and I drew a line under it like a number 1. So number 1 goes on the left, number 2, and then I did 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. And I drew a line under it so I don't get confused which way's up and down. That's important so that you have a nice level surface here. After I number the blocks, I number the wall too. I numbered them and I pre-drilled them for a reason. We have a little end sticking out there. That's going to be our marker. That's going to mark us where we're going to pre-drill our holes. Now I already pre-drilled all mine, so I can just go through this a lot faster, but I just line the top of this block up with the line that we drew, and I use my hammer and I just tap it in. That'll make a nice little hole. Now we know exactly where we have to pre-drill. You want to make sure you set your drill bit to the depth that your screw is going to. You know what? There's something I forgot to talk about, and it's these diagonal pieces. It's very important that we make our cuts extremely accurate. This here, from here to here, that needs to be a right angle. So that'll be flat and then it goes an angle. So make sure you cut that at a nice 90. Now we screw these into the wall, and like I said, when you put the underline, make sure they're in the right position. Now, if these weren't glued together, they'd probably be spinning on you. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue and clamp our horizontal pieces onto the end of this. I don't think you have to use glue, but it just makes it a little bit stronger. I'm going to use the glue. You don't need much glue. I think a lot of videos show people using way too much glue. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Unless you're making like a load-bearing horizontal beam, you know, with real engineering properties, you don't need a ton of glue. Like I might have even, I guess I'll show you how much I put on. This is how much glue I put. And this is the tip for reference. I just did a little squiggly line there. All right. Now I'm going to do the next one. Again, same amount of glue. I might even use less. Now I need to figure out where I put my paper towels. I know I just put them somewhere there. And then when you're done gluing, you obviously just wipe the tip of the glue off. Now we start clamping. So you'll just line up the edge that you're starting with. Just line up all three of those. You don't have to worry about anything else. I'm going to put a couple more clamps on there. As you can see, I have it all clamped up. If you look at there, you can still see glue oozing out. But it is oozing right there a little bit between those two. Right there. Got it all clamped up. I'm going to pre-drill my holes for the screws. I do not have 1.5 inch screws, so I'm going to be using 2-inch screws. Now 2-inch screws will slightly be protruding out. So all I'm going to do is just angle my drill a little bit, or angle the screw in so that it's not poking out. After the holes are pre-drilled, go ahead and screw these screws in. Now we're going to nail it, and I need my earplugs for that. And I'm going to nail it from the other side. Take our diagonal pieces, just set it in there, and they should sit just by themselves. It's that easy. I've had these sitting here for a day, so now I'm going to take all the clamps off. I've got the clamps off. Now I'm going to try to sit the top down on top of the supports. I'm going to hope this doesn't fall off. Awesome. Nice that it's actually holding up, but we will have to push it in. So now I'm going to go across. I'm going to put one nail on each side, all on one side. I'm going to go from left to right. And I'm using 2-inch nails. I'm going to go ahead and clamp both sides with the clamp. Alright, this one's clamped. I'm going to hit this one with the nail. I think I can do it with just clamping the one side. Now I'm going to get one nail in each bottom. Okay, now I'm going to pre-drill the rest of my holes. This one might be a little tricky. First you line it up center. Oh wow, that's pretty good. I'm going to screw in my 3-inch screws here on the bottom. Up here, 1 1/4 inch I have here. Now I'm going to do 2-inch for right here. Let's make sure that's not overkill though. I might just do the 1 1/4. Yeah, so a 2-inch will have it kind of sticking out. So I'm just going to do the 1 1/4. I can't find the hole. There it is. Funny thing just happened. I just thought I recorded myself doing pull-ups on this, but apparently I wasn't recording. So now I'm kind of tired, but let's see if we can, how much weight this thing can hold. There's one pull-up on the sides. I'm going to put them in the middle here. Yeah. And there it is, 180 pounds. I also missed a step too. I did not put my pieces here. Let's go back. I still need to put a piece here, I think. And here. So let's continue doing that. These pieces, I put these in here. There was a little bow in this, so I put these straight pieces here and I clamped them in. They were a little long. You can see, it's hard to see there, but they were a little long, so I had to trim it down. I just scribed it and trimmed it, and I clamped it in place. And this one only needed 1 clamp. Now that it's clamped in place, I'm going to nail it using 1-inch nails. I gotta hurry up and nail this before I fog up. Oh, fogged up. Now I'm gonna pre-drill and put 2 screws in. So here's the final. It's a little fuzzy here. Here is the final piece. Why does it look fuzzy? Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button if you liked it, if you learned something. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, please feel free to post it in the comments. My next video is going to be posting a zero clearance insert and a splitter for my vintage Craftsman table saw. So please like if you don't want to miss that. And I'm going to have a lot cooler projects coming up in the future, and you're not going to want to miss those.